Hi, my name is Greg, the German joiner. You know, being comfortable out in your shop can really make or break whether you're going to go out there and build anything. So I wanted to make a video today on the heater that I just installed in my shop. Now I live in the Northeast. Winters here can be absolutely brutal. I mean, brutal. Last winter was horrible and I didn't get out in the shop much. So I wanted to install a new heater. I had a torpedo heater out there, but as you know, you're burning kerosene and the fumes can really get to you. So I bought an electric heater. I don't know what it's going to do to my electric bill yet, but it's keeping it comfortable out there. So it's a 220 volt heater. So I'm going to show you a little bit of electrical, how 220 volt works, and what I came up with for hanging the heater in my shop. So I hope you enjoy. So you can see here I'm getting ready to lay out that bracket so I can drill into the wall with a hammer drill. I have to drill 2 half-inch holes to support the anchors that are going to hang this heater from the wall. And there's the hammer drill. Now I'm just going to insert the 2 anchors there. I just hit them in with a hammer, and as you tighten the nut on the end of it, it actually cinches up into the concrete to really support quite a bit of weight. So the bracket is up now, and now all that's left is to hang the heater there and see how it looks.
So I mounted it to the wall. I don't like it, so I'm going to have to figure out some way to mount it to the ceiling and where I'm going to put it. So I'm going to take it down, and I got to figure out some kind of bracket. I got to mount the bracket somewhere. Alright, stay tuned. So here's what I came up with. I'm hanging it from the ceiling. I bolted the mounting bracket into a 2x4 on edge there, so I got plenty of bite. And then in the top there's one long timber lock screw. Fastener Master makes them. They're awesome. So I put one from the top 2x4 straight down, so I could actually turn that. It's like a pivot pin. Let me reach up and I'll show you. See, now we're facing another way. So I'll put it back. So it worked out pretty good. So that's what it is. I'm going to run the wire up to it, and we'll give it a test run. We'll fire it up.
So the first thing I want to do here is mount this box. It's actually a disconnect box that will allow me to disconnect just the heater from this circuit in my panel. And I was having a little bit of trouble with that powder actuated gun, so I had to get a different one to actually shoot this thing to the wall.
So let me show you what I'm doing here. So this heater is a 220 volt heater. So basically what that means is you have to pick up power from both sides of this panel. So you have 110 volts on this bar, 110 on this bar. What these do, let me pop out a breaker. When you have a double breaker, when you have a double breaker, what it does is every other breaker switches, it alternates bar to bar. So when you have a double breaker like this, you're picking up power from actually this side and this side. I don't know if you can see in there. So this spans both sides. You wind up with 220 volts. So I'm running an 8-2 wire. That's an 8 gauge wire with a hot and a neutral wire, which in this case they're both going to be hot, and a ground. So I'm going to run that down to this disconnect box. I don't know if you can see that down there, the one I just installed. Move the camera. So that disconnect box, I couldn't get a 40 amp switch, so I decided to just get a 60 amp. It's basically just a disconnect. I don't know what they call it, probably a disconnect. But you just pull a tab out and it will shut that off. Reason I'm doing that is because I want to be able to run multiple things off of that one circuit. And I can't turn on two things at one time. If that's drawing 30 amps of power and then something else comes on and draws 20 amps or 30 amps, it's going to blow the breaker. So I would have to actually manually shut off just the heater, go and use the joiner or the planer or whatever it is that's going to be using that kind of power. And then once I shut it off, I could turn the heat back on. So it's probably not the right way to do it, but it's going to work. So yeah, let me put this stuff back together. I'm going to put a junction box in too. So that's next, and then we'll go from there.
So the first thing I'm going to do here is mount this junction box. As you can see, I mounted it kind of high there, and I find out later that I don't really like where it's mounted. And then I'm going to start running wires.
Alright, so as you can see, I had to move that junction box. It was just too tight up there and it looked ridiculous. So I'm going to put a couple staples in that. I will run probably out of the bottom over to this switch. From that switch, we're going to go up the wall here. I actually got to put another Romex connector in the side. We're going to put another Romex connector in there, and we're going to go up the wall here. And I think I'm going to hang the heater somewhere in, yeah, the wire's going to go up the wall, and then I think the heater's going to hang right about there somewhere. But I'll get to that when I get to it. So first, let's finish this wiring down here. Alright, so here's what I've been doing. So this is going to be the disconnect. As you can see, there's two grounds in the back. The neutrals, well in this case hot legs, and the other hot legs come through. Black to one side. These are the line in terminals. Those are the line out terminals. So from out here, it's going to come out. That's this wire here. It's going to go up the wall and over to the heater, wherever the heck I decide to put that. So I'm not even going to run the wire yet. I'm just going to leave it hanging. I'm going to put this whole thing back together and then mount the heater. Alrighty guys, so it's do or die. So I turn the breaker on. Now what that does is it feeds 220 power down through this into this junction box. Now inside this junction box, this camera's horrible at focusing. Anyway, inside this junction box, I also left room to tap off again. Out of that junction box, these two wires are spliced together and it comes down here and up into this switch. This is the disconnect. It's a 60 amp disconnect, which doesn't really matter because it's tied to a 40 amp breaker. And then that will give power up there, across, and into this. I gotta figure out why this thing is focusing so horribly. Huh. I don't know. It's really bad though, isn't it? Anyway, it'll go into that. So there you go. I'm gonna put this knife switch in, this into the disconnect. See there, it focuses. What the deal? I don't know. So I'm gonna put this in. It'll turn this on, and then we should be ready to set that thing and make sure it works. So the knife switch is going in. Okay, so now that has power up there. See what happens. It's humming. I don't really see a whole lot happening. Oh, we're getting some warm air. Oh yeah. She is warm. Just burnt the crap out of my fingers. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there is my heater. Well, guess what? We have heat for the winter. Very, very happy. So, that's it. Any questions, leave them below. Don't claim to be an electrician, so I probably won't have the answers, but feel free to ask. All right, talk to you later. Peace.